for Richmond.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And I rise today on behalf of my community to condemn offensive comments that have been made by the New South Wales National Leader and Deputy Premier John Barilaro. Now, in response to questions yesterday about the massive increase in housing prices in our region, the Nationals Leader said this: "This is the champagne problem to have." He actually said that in response to the crisis we have on the North Coast at the moment. And that comment is highly offensive to many people in my community, especially those that are desperately struggling to find a rental premises, or those that are desperately trying to buy a house, to find accommodation. He has the audacity to come up and make a statement like that. And it shows yet again how out of touch and arrogant the Nationals are. Now, for a long period of time, we've had a huge housing affordability crisis, a rental crisis and a homelessness crisis. And just recently, in my region on the New South Wales North Coast, we've seen the largest increases in housing prices across the nation. On top of that, rental vacancies are under 1%. And what I hear every day is locals who can't get rentals. There's massive competitions, huge increases in rent. I'm hearing from families who are forced into homelessness because of this crisis. And all the Deputy Premier has to say, "This is a champagne problem to have," so offensive. So I challenge the Deputy Premier to come to the North Coast and sit down with those families and hear firsthand about their problems, how they cannot find a house for their families, for their children. It is that desperate. So the Deputy Premier, instead of swanning around with his mate, the Tweed Nationals MP, Jeff Provis, who all he does is cut services across the region, the Deputy Premier needs to listen to the real concerns of my community. Not only are his comments offensive, but he and his government's lack of action is appalling. Both the state and federal Liberal and National parties have failed to address this issue. We've repeatedly called on the Morrison government for a national plan to address housing and homelessness, especially during the pandemic. And at a state level, we've seen no commitment to social housing. This is a crisis, and both the federal and state governments must act, not just make offensive comments. We also recently heard the Deputy Premier make offensive comments about the people living in Lennox Head, called everybody NIMBYs because of their concerns about a major event in their area. Again, offensive because people stand up for their region. Because of our beautiful region, all the Deputy Premier can say is they're NIMBYs. We're highly offended. And if these comments weren't bad enough, what we've seen from the Liberal and National parties right across the North Coast is constantly cutting services. In Murwillumbah, closing 4 schools, amalgamating them into one. Massive cuts to our police right across the North Coast. And just this week, we've seen the Berejiklian and Barilaro government slash 28 local jobs at TAFE, another broken election promise. The fact is, they can't be trusted. And our community has had enough of the Liberal and National parties' lies, cuts and chaos and their offensive comments. We deserve better.
I call the honourable member for Lyne.